Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelli Fox. Each week, Kelly will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes, events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you, and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelli Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelly each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there, welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm your host, Kelli Fox, and I'm very excited for this week's show because I have a very special guest. I'm joined this week by Mr. Sean Kelley, and Sean and I will be discussing astrology and just having a general conversation about it and what it is, what it means, how it's affected our lives. And so with me tonight is Sean. Hi, Sean.
Hello, Kelly. It's great to be here.
Thank you for joining me. I'm very excited to have you on the show. And I thought with the recent solar eclipse being at 19 degrees Pisces, you would be a perfect guest because your descendant is 19 degrees. Your ascendant is 19 degrees Pisces and your descendant is 19 degrees Virgo. And I'm hoping, I'm diving straight into the deep end here, but I'm hoping you can tell us about that and how this solar eclipse has been affecting you.
Wow. Yeah. It's definitely a doozy, especially given that the planets that I have near the ascendant, which is Chiron and Saturn, and how my ascendant is aspected by a mutable grand square.
I think we should break that down. And as I just said, it's like we've launched straight into the deep end with this without any sort of reference about anything. We've gone for the hardcore stuff immediately.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because Sean has a grand square. Okay, I'm going to start with that. So Sean has a grand square, which is a major configuration involving 4 or more planets forming a square where you've got planets in opposition, planets forming a square, and all of them are just a big giant square in the chart. And so what that means is that life for someone with a grand square is challenging, but definitely interesting. And the thing with Sean's grand square is they're all in mutable signs, and mutable makes it a little bit more flexible rather than if it was a fixed square. And I just want to say before you go on, you'd mentioned that you have Chiron and Saturn, as well as what looks like Pallas Athene, conjunct the ascendant. Now, Chiron, and I want you to tell us more about that, but Chiron is the wounded healer, helping others through your own experiences. And then Saturn, of course, is karma and responsibility. So the flavour adding to the intensity of the solar eclipse with what you have with these planets in the grand square, I can only imagine what that would mean for you. So tell us a bit more, Sean.
Okay, well, Given that it's all in Pisces, I'll start by saying it probably hasn't completely revealed itself. But I can go into some detail here in terms of a very personal relationship that I had that had every serendipitous event go on around it to make it appear completely bona fide, and the dissolving of that relationship coupled with this eclipse.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this relationship, how long has it been going for, and did it break up on the eclipse, or what happened?
It started. Frankly, our first date was on my mother's birthday.
Oh my goodness!
In the city that my mother lived in when she passed away, which I had never been to, which was bizarre that I even ended up there, because 2 days prior to my arrival in that city, I had no idea that I would be going there. Work had asked me to go there and represent them at a conference where I met this person. And so there I was on my mother's birthday on my first day with this person. I thought, wow, talk about an omen, and wow, this is going to be amazing. And it sure was for, several months. However, we had actually, I saw this eclipse coming and had planned, a time with her during this event, and that of course did not happen. So.
It's really interesting because, Sean, I have your chart in front of me, and as you're telling the story, I'm looking at, obviously, not only your chart, but the planetary influences. Is with this eclipse, the solar eclipse that just happened at 19 Pisces, your moon was being squared, or there was friction around the eclipse to your moon. Now, your moon is part of this grand square, and moon is mother, and your moon is also forming a square to Saturn, and Saturn is karma. And so your Saturn is wrapped up with the ascendant and the eclipse. So and this is what I typically do as well, is when I hear people's stories, I always relate it back to what's going on in their chart. And so for you, I'm not surprised to hear about, it was something about your mum, and it brought these feelings back of your mum. And I know your mum, you just said your mum's passed.
Yes.
And so the Saturn is the karma, karma around mother. So what with this lady that you're referring to, was there any similarities between her and your mum, or the same types of feelings, or was there any connection at all?
Just the not really interpersonally, at least not that I could recognize.
Okay.
However, the events around us meeting was definitely drove that mother. My consciousness around mother. Was very prevalent around my mom.
Right.
It was very prevalent when I arrived at this event, and throughout the event, because there I was the day before her birthday, arriving in the city that she had lived in when she passed away, and so that was very, very interesting to me. So she was definitely in my consciousness in a big way.
Absolutely. And the other thing that you've got is, of course, part of the grand square is the Pluto. And Pluto opposes Saturn, and it squares the moon. So Pluto, anytime I see moon Pluto in a reading, I always, according to Judy Hall, and another astrologer who's written a lot of books, one book was the Hades moon, and it involves moon Pluto aspects. And I know that the individual has issues perhaps around the mother, not issues, but very intense emotional feelings around the mother or mothering. And so because this was triggered by the eclipse, it's really interesting that even things from the subconscious are coming to light, perhaps, and the eclipse just illuminated that.
I would definitely agree with that statement, Kelly. Yes, you really can't make astrology up. It just happens.
Yes, it's fascinating.
It is fascinating. It's always been blowing my mind. But yes, that is very true. Very, very, very correct statement. Absolutely.
And with eclipses have typically a 6-month effect. But I've found from experience that events typically happen, if they're going to happen in that 6-month period, they typically happen on the day or the week. And astrology doesn't always work right to the minute, like the exact when it's going to take effect. But with eclipses, it sometimes does happen. So with this situation, the breakup around the eclipse, was that on the day of the eclipse or the week or what? How?
It was about 5 days before, but then kind of strung out over the course of that week, and then was pretty much nailed shut within a week's time. So. Yeah, I would say that was fairly accurate. Absolutely.
And I think as well with eclipses that they're connected to the next set of eclipses. So the next eclipse will be September 1st. So I'm just looking to see what degree the next eclipse, the solar eclipse on September 1st is 9 Virgo. And so for you, that occurs in the 6th house, pretty close, like a wide conjunction or very close to the descendant. Mm-hmm. So that tells me that around September 1st, a new relationship will come to you at that time. Wow. But a few weeks ago, I had the whole show about the eclipses, and it was like for the solar eclipse, you have to have an ending before you can have that amazingly huge beginning. You need to wrap things up. So with this relationship, I think you just said it's completely done. It's wrapped up.
Yes.
Now you're processing, of course, with that Hades moon that you have, of course, you're processing, and then you'll be ready for September 1st. Next lady to come into your life.
Oh, boy.
So, Sean, we're going to take a break. And then after the break, I want to continue. I won't probe as much, I promise.
That's all right, Kelly.
But let's continue after the break.
Sounds great.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Vibe Nation Radio is brought to you by Carrie Turcotte and Dean Thomas. Each week, we bring a refreshing outlook to lifting the veils of illusion that occur in our daily lives. We will share our own learnings and personal experience that allow others to understand who they truly are.
At the end of each show, Carrie will be tapping into the listeners' energies just to give an idea of what to expect for the week ahead. So join us each Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and together we will discover the inner keys that will unlock the true you.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi there, this is the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox, and this week I have a very special guest, Mr. Sean Kelley. And Sean and I are talking about astrology and Sean's chart in particular. Now, Sean, you have a grand square.
That sounds so ominous.
No. What's that note? Da-da-da-da.
Exactly.
So, a grand square. Can you tell us more about the grand square and what it means and what it's meant for you throughout your life?
It means I have to work my little tush off for everything. This is what it means. No, it actually kind of does. There's always a challenge.
Yes.
There really is. There's always a challenge. There's no rest. I've heard astrologers say, well, it's a really strong soul to come in and
yes,
that karma, and it's I find myself feeling blessed with my particular grand square because Mercury is conjunct my midheaven, so it keeps my thinking about things, in line with my higher self. And so I believe that's a saving grace of it. And there's constantly challenges about self, constantly challenges with the relationship aspect of things, and the moon, being at the IC, it really, and being in Gemini, my moon really keeps me mercurial about my emotions. And so,
right.
I've been lucky with my grand square to process it. How does it play out? Oh, it's like pressure from all sides all the time. I feel really blessed that it's a mutable one.
Absolutely.
And that there's other aspects of my chart which are really harmonious to kind of facilitate that life is not all about the challenges. I feel that I have been able to work through many of the challenges. In fact, I've worked through every challenge that it's presented so far. And I, feel pretty blessed to live the life that I live. I know a lot of people are very, I feel very fortunate to live the life that I've created out of that.
Right.
But it is only an acute awareness of astrology that's really kind of helped me, honestly. As I look at different transits that might come up, like the solar eclipse, I'm going, okay, all right, here we go.
Is that how you got into astrology? Because you wanted to understand more about the challenges in your life or understand people in your life better? What led you to become interested in astrology?
When I was in school, in a college, I was handed a chart, and I really could understand what the symbolism was all about. I could understand that what the energy behind each symbol was, which really kind of floored me. And a woman whom I was really endeared to, a much older woman. She was in her late 50s. Her and her husband were pillars in my life. She encouraged me to embrace it. She's like, you actually understand this. Maybe you should do a reading on me, and you tell me what you see in my chart. And when I discovered that what I was saying about that person actually was accurate, my interest blew up in my face. It was massive.
Right.
And so I started studying as much as I could, grabbing as many books as I could, reading as much as I could. I call myself a student of astrology to this day.
I do too. I think we all are. Even though I'm a professional, I'm definitely still a lifetime student.
Yeah. Oh, Kelly, and I have not done anything to the extent that you have with all of the certifications that you have, and the energy that you've been able to put into astrology. For me, I've become more of the working business development type person and what have you. But if I had to go back and do it over again, I might go and get certifications like yourself.
It's very time consuming, and I don't know if I ever told you that the exams that I took for the American Federation of Astrologers, 2 exams, the basic and the professional, both were 8 hours each.
Wow.
8-hour exams. And then you get 1 hour for lunch in between. And then the NCGR exams were 4 hours each.
Oh,
so they're very... It's very stressful, and the amount of learning and studying you have to do is quite mind-boggling. But it's worth it. It really is worth it. Mm. But I wanted to bring something else up, that we're talking about your grand square. Mm-hmm. That when you were 1, if you don't mind me sharing, but when you were about 1, I remember you saying that you had a near-death experience.
Yes.
And I've always found that fascinating with this grand square, because a grand square is somebody who leads a very interesting and varied life, sometimes a life of extremes, is how I always think of it when I see it in a chart. Tell me a bit more about what happened to you.
I don't know some of the details on that. I'd have to inquire with my sister. However, I know that I was being fed through my foot,
oh my goodness,
a needle through your foot. I mean, that's just, where it's the, I guess, the safest or best place to intravenously feed an infant. Oh. And I had knocked it out or something of that nature. And I was in a room with a few other infants, and they had passed away, as had I. But I somehow was revived, obviously.
Sean.
I remember nothing about it. And I almost think that maybe my soul wanted to get out of here because of the karma I took on. Who knows, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, with the grand square, and I'm not saying that every time somebody has a grand square, that's what happens to them. That's an extreme example, but I wanted to highlight how challenging life can be for individuals with these harder configurations. And I wanted to say as well, years ago I'd written a book, Stars of the Stars, and what it was about were famous people's charts. And so you would normally think that a famous, successful person has an easier chart or an easier astrological configuration of when they're born. But what was fascinating to me was they all had very challenging aspects and configurations in their charts. And it was nearly over 90% of the A-list celebrities have these heavy-duty influences. And I was fascinated by that. And then it sort of made sense, because, with a hard configuration or a hard aspect, you have to pave the way. You pave the way and you appreciate the good more so because you've been through the bad. It's like you have to hit the bottom before you can get to the top, type of thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, so throughout your life, I know you've had challenges. That was just one. Uh-huh. And then other examples, like you'd mentioned that your Mercury is in Sagittarius on the MC. Now, the MC is the 10th house cusp, and it's how we present ourselves to the world, or how other people in our community view us. And what I thought was fascinating was your Mercury. You were saying your Mercury has been like the savior of the grand square that you have, because you've been able to, is it articulate, your feelings in a certain way, or you've been able to, how has that directed the grand square?
Yeah, one thing I can do is articulate my feelings really well. At least that's what people tell me. I really don't know what it's like to not do that. Mm-hmm. But it's perception as well. It's Sagittarius, so being able to see other energy that's around you. I find that I can pick up on things, like walk into a room and I could pick up on someone's sadness, even though they may not show it in their face. I could see it plain as day, kind of a thing.
I think that's also Chiron on your ascendant as well. Because, your Pisces ascendant, now Pisces is very intuitive and empathetic. So it's like you're an empath and having Chiron there more so. And then the other thing, I'm jumping all over the place here, but I know with your Gemini moon you can handle that.
Well, you're also hitting each aspect of my grand square as you talk about it. So.
I know, there's so much to say about it. It's like I've got to start somewhere, but I'm jumping all over the place. But that Gemini, the Gemini moon's a multitasker. But back to the Mercury and Sagittarius in the 9th house, it's in its own house. Like the 9th house is the house of Sagittarius. And when Mercury's there, it's sort of like you'd be a great orator or presenter. And I know in your business life, you're very successful as a presenter. You really can articulate very well, and people pay big money to come and hear you speak and get advice from you. So it's sort of like you've been able to funnel the tougher energy of the grand square, as you said, into that Mercury and make it work for you.
Yes, I have been fortunate in that sense of it. It's not, again, without challenges, and I find that when I walk up onto a stage, so to speak, that if I just let everything go and just flow with the energy that's in the room and that audience, I can really drive different topics really home for people, and that's been maybe that's a manifestation of what you're saying. I'm trying to think of a way that it's applied to those circumstances, and
yes, because also just using that as an example, you have Saturn in the 1st house. Saturn is the planet of wisdom and authority. It's like it's our authority. So in the 1st house is how other people see us. So people see you as somebody, who has the wisdom and authority. So they take notice. And then with the Gemini moon, very quick, you can talk off the top of your head without the preparation of it. So even though the grand square is viewed as a negative configuration, I think there's a lot of positives that come from that. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break and more after the break.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi there, welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelli Fox, and I have a very special guest with me tonight, Mr. Sean Kelley. And we're talking about Sean's grand square.
Still.
And I know, still, that's why I'm laughing. It was like, still talking about the grand square. How about, and we launch straight into the deep end with your chart, Sean.
Oh, that's awesome, though. Really. I try to live transparently. So, the vulnerability is where the strength is, right?
So let's take a step back and talk about your Capricorn sun.
Yes.
So the Capricorn sun, to me, is the grounding influence. Can you tell me more about that? And also you have Venus in Capricorn. So talk to me more about the sun and Venus.
Drive, and drive.
Yes.
I kind of see it as honestly the foundation from which I can utilize all the energy, because everything is just energy at the end of the day, really, whether it's abrasive or harmonious or, what have you. In a grand square fuels so much energy. And people that meet me, they can just sense this massive amount of energy within me. And I believe it's that Capricorn sun and Venus that grounds it, and directs it so that, so it's kind of another saving grace aspect of my chart, in my opinion.
Yes.
They're also both in the 10th house. And so they both, tend to really drive that public image aspect of things.
Yes, absolutely. Now, what about Venus in Capricorn? Now, I find that placement quite interesting. The reason being is because Venus is the planet of love, and when it's with Capricorn, it's about, I always think trophy wife, but I know it doesn't sound very nice, but it was like I couldn't think of another way to say it. What's a better way of saying trophy wife?
Oh, I really don't know at the moment, Kelly. I'm sorry.
But it's like, in other words, what you'd be striving for would be to have an equal, because you have business success, you're a business guy, and you'd seek a partner that also has business success, and that you could have some intellectual sort of material success conversations type of thing, someone that gets you on that level.
Well, absolutely. In fact, I don't know if this is related to Venus and Capricorn or what have you, but I do look for that equality in I treat business partnerships with equal with equality. Constantly looking for that win-win. If there's no win-win, then there's just no reason to do anything.
Yes, and I think that's tied in as well to, you have Mars in Libra. Now, Mars is how we assert ourselves. It's like the masculine energy. When it's in Libra, there's a little bit of a mismatch because Libra is such a soft, harmonious, its ruler is Venus, whereas Mars the mythology is the god of war. So when you get those two energies coming together, it's like, I always think the person seeks harmony no matter what, at any cost. So it's sort of like the smiling assassin.
The smiling, yeah. Well, maybe with my own self individually, with all the other things going on in my chart, it's seeking harmony through the work, and being able to do all the grand square work to create the harmony. I can look at that like my teenage daughter, who's now 14, and it's like, whoa, all the work that has to go into that relationship now, to generate that harmony that was, once there. I kind of see that as a reflection of that.
Oh, the joys of managing a teenager. Now, I know she's a Capricorn as well. So
yes.
How does that play out?
Oh, she's stubborn.
But she's gorgeous.
And she's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous.
And, honestly, it makes her really strong-willed. It gives her a real flair for independence. I think both of those, and honestly, both of those things I have gone out of my way to foster in her, because I want her to be able to stand on her own and be an independent, strong woman in this world.
And she absolutely, look, my view of your daughter is she's absolutely like that. You've done such a great job on that level.
Oh,
and I see that your Venus is at 16 degrees Capricorn. Mm-hmm. What is the degree of her sun?
She's a 21 degree sun. 21.
So what that means is that her sun and your Venus are connected, and they come together and they sit together. And anytime I see Venus sun together in a natal or a compatibility or anything, I know there's a great love. When it's in a natal chart, you've got Sun Venus, but it's wide apart. But anytime there's a Sun-Venus aspect in someone's chart, I know that people are attracted or drawn to this individual because the Sun is the core of who you are and Venus is love. So other people look to you with great love or admiration. So the connection between you and your daughter is great love and admiration as well. So I can only assume that she'll grow out of the teen angst, whatever you want to call it. It'll come later. So there's hope.
Yes. So luckily, I've got that Capricorn Sun and Venus to keep me patient for that. So
yes, patience. Yes, absolutely. And I remember when we first met, you had the transiting Pluto on your sun.
Yes.
I know I keep laughing at the hard stuff. I don't know why. I guess if you don't laugh, you cry. But you had transiting Pluto on your sun, and that was triggering your grand square.
Yes.
And no, is that correct? Triggering your grand square. Oh, well, in a way it was triggering, but not in a hard way. It was forming like more softer aspects. Because it was forming a trine to your Uranus and Pluto and a sextile to your Saturn. So it wasn't too bad. It could have been worse, in other words. But
yes,
I do remember the Pluto on your sun. And, years ago I had Pluto on my moon, and that was horrendous. Can you tell me more about what you went through with Pluto on your sun and how that affected you?
That was intense inner work, honestly, and it was reflected externally. There I was, sitting with 6 monitors going, working and really with this intensity focused inward for me was a real interesting experience. In contrast, if I could, move the topic to Venus, because that's where Pluto has been. I have found Pluto on Venus to be much more difficult than it was on the Sun. The Sun, everything was focused inward, and Venus is just such a sensitive, it just has a sensitive quality where it's like Pluto, it just feels like it just wreaked havoc on Venus. However, my experience needs to include Uranus in that, because Uranus has been, was squaring my Venus as Pluto was conjuncting it. So,
oh dear.
You want to talk about hard, right? Excuse me.
Yes, and I have to say that natally I have Venus Pluto conjunct with Uranus. So watch what you say, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, I can't wait to go through your chart sometime, Kelly. That would be
that'll have to be another show.
Beautiful grand trine and everything.
I do have fortunate aspects as well as some challenging ones. But I'm interested about the Pluto on your Venus, because Venus being the planet of love, Pluto being the planet of change, but it sounds so light and fluffy when I say it that way, but it's actually forced change, or change that we don't sort of always willingly want to do.
Right. Yeah. And in being that it's got that rules Scorpio, or has all those Scorpio aspects to it. There is immense deep transformation that occurs with it.
Yes.
I'll say that. Additionally, it can be deceptive. Like that middle decan of Scorpio, which is really, really hard that way. In thinking about my own chart, and I think about where it's at now with Pluto conjunct Venus, and where it was conjunct my Sun, that was also sextiling my Vesta, which isn't Scorpio, 3 degrees, and so it was really that inner core transformation. I think my remarks out of that really come out of that Vesta place, whereas with Venus for me, it's really revealed as Pluto's now separating from it a bit. It's really revealed aspects of myself and aspects of what I want, how I grab my own self-worth, and really transformed that self-worth aspect of myself.
Oh, interesting, because Vesta is one of the 4 main asteroids, and it is about not just the self-worth, but keeper of the hearth. It's like, what is true to you? What's important to you? And of course, with the Venus, it's all about, love and what we're attracted to. That's really interesting that you said that, because Pluto, the myth of Pluto is Lord of the underworld. And we have to be dragged down through something before we can see the light, I guess, is the way to say it. And you'd had mentioned Uranus. Uranus is the planet of the unexpected. So it with Uranus thrown into the mix, it's like something unusual coming at you that you hadn't anticipated or planned for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very interesting. Now, I know you're big on Chiron. Can you tell me more about how Chiron, the wounded healer, has played out in your life?
I have not seen it play out like some might expect, given its placement. It's so close to the ascendant, you would think that something would physically, happen to me. Use of legs or something. But it's really taught me about how to be the teacher, I guess is what I've grabbed onto that.
That makes sense with the work that you do. Yeah, yes. Got it. Well, thanks a lot, Sean. I really appreciate you sharing,
It's your pleasure, Kelly.
Details about your life. And after the break, I'm going to go through the weekly horoscopes.
Oh, I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Come heal yourself. What is healing? Healing is nothing but connecting with your all-knowing higher self that already has solutions to all your problems and is always there to guide you. Through this show, we help you to connect with that you are and tap into that innate potential you have to transform your life and fly high. Please join me, your host Monica Goyal, every Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific. Namaste.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm Kelli Fox, your host and astrologer. And so now I'm going to go through the weekly horoscopes and for your sign. We have a little bit of a reprieve this week because we're over the eclipses. Saturn turned retrograde on Friday and there was some planets changing sign. So March has been a pretty busy month. So this week it's a little bit of a reprieve, except when it comes to communication. So this week it's a little bit tougher because Mercury is in Aries and it is forming a conjunction to Uranus on Thursday and a square to Pluto on Wednesday. So what that means is that Mercury, planet of the mind, the communication, it's how we speak, it's how we think. When it's forming a square or a challenging aspect to Pluto, as I just said before the break, Pluto being Lord of the underworld, we have to be very careful with what we say this week. Communication will be crucial. And this is especially true for the cardinal signs, and the cardinal signs being Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Be very careful with what you say, and then there could be some unexpected repercussions or responses that come your way because of the Mercury conjunct Uranus on Thursday. The good news is, though, Mercury forms a trine to Saturn on Tuesday, and so this is very good for dealing with large amounts of data or information. It's good for sorting through piles and piles of information. So if you have a lot of emails in your inbox, a lot of paperwork to be filed, this is the week to do it. It's also a great week for research and investigation because of the Mercury connecting to Pluto. Even though it's a little bit of a challenge, it's still good for that. Now, onto the signs. Aries. Mercury is in your sign, so expect to be defined by your words this week, for better or for worse. You could make some outstanding speeches and presentations because people are taking notice of what you have to say, but one slip-up is likely to haunt you for a while. So it really is important to think before you speak. And sometimes with Aries, you don't really do that a lot, but this week it really is imperative. Taurus. Details are difficult to pin down while you are in a rather vague and dreamy frame of mind. And that's thanks to everything that's been going on this past month, with the eclipses and the changing of the direction of Saturn. But on the plus side for Taurus, your imagination soars and leads to some very creative ideas. But remembering to take out the trash could be a problem. So it's sort of like this week your head's in the clouds, but it's good to find that balance because the mundane still needs to be taken care of. Gemini. Surround yourself with groups of like-minded souls this week because the energies for teamwork are excellent. And on a more positive note, your relationship may suffer through jealousy over a mutual friend. Now, Gemini likes to be a bit flirty and has lots of friends, but a lot of the times there's really not much to it. But if you have a partner that might be feeling a bit insecure, and with the recent lunar eclipse all about relationships and how to deal with others, it's going to be really important if you're in a relationship to keep your partner's mind at ease. Cancer. It's time to be a little bit selfish at work. You are presented with some excellent opportunities this week. Just don't give them away. Focus on presenting the best of yourself rather than vouching for someone else. Now, Cancer is the caretaker of the zodiac and likes to look after other people. So sometimes you might put others before your own needs because that's just the way you are, the mother hen. But this time it's important that you get the credit where credit is due. You get the kudos. You make sure that you get the notice and appreciation for the work that's done. Leo, if routine threatens to swallow you up, get out of the house or the office. Just being outdoors will help your state of mind. If you can go somewhere beautiful, so much the better. But any outdoors is better than the same four walls. And you know how it is? Sometimes you want to climb those walls going stir crazy. This is the time for new beginnings. It's spring, the solar eclipse. It's time for new routines. Or don't let yourself get crazy with boredom. Virgo, family power dynamics are interesting, and I'm saying that in quotes, this week for sure. And you may struggle to parent effectively or to get your voice heard among your siblings. Keep trying. Sooner or later, you will get the message across. So with Virgo, it's a mutable sign and very flexible. So Virgo's typically not a power tripper. So any sort of power dynamics, you can navigate your way around them. Libra, in your relationship, don't leave communication to chance because this is an icky week for communication and misunderstandings. Make sure that your partner feels appreciated and showered with affection, which is easy for you to do. It really is too easy for someone to get the wrong end of the stick and start to feel unloved. But you are very good, Libra, at making others feel loved and welcomed and embraced. Scorpio, listen carefully to your self-talk this week. Are you tuning into your own worst enemy? It's a good week for self-improvement efforts, but it's more important than ever now that you learn to love who you see in the mirror. And this is very important because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and Pluto is very much involved with communication this week. Sagittarius. So for you, you may find that people are judging you this week without having any understanding of your circumstances or the journey you are on. Try not to take this personally. It's very much their problem, not yours. So don't get caught up with that if you can. Capricorn. There's something nostalgic about family life this week and an urge to investigate genealogy and your roots. Where did you come from? Who are you? Talk to some elderly family members and research any distant or long-lost relatives who might like to meet you. It's always important to know our foundation and who we are and where we've come from. Aquarius. During a busy week, mistakes can be made, especially this week with the influences around communication and misunderstandings. But the key here is to slow down. Do things right the first time rather than waste time later having to redo them, which is incredibly frustrating. It could be a stressful period, but you'll have lots to show for your efforts, and it will be worth the perseverance. And finally, Pisces. This is a good week for getting your finances into better shape. If you're in debt, get advice about how to resolve the situation. Meanwhile, work on creative ways to increase your income and learn to love a little being frugal here and there. You don't always have to spend big to get something good. So that's your horoscope for the week. I'd like to welcome Sean back, if you're still there, Sean, because I've had a really good show.
Here.
Thank you for sharing your chart.
My sincere pleasure.
And I didn't really want to get onto the grand square and talk endlessly about it, but it's so fascinating I couldn't resist.
Kelly, it's always an honor to connect with you, and thank you for exploring it.
Yeah, and I'd like to invite you back again, because I really enjoyed having this conversation and really like talking about what astrology means to not just you, but it's fascinating how people get into it, how we start off with it. You know, for me, the reason I got into it, I've always been interested in astrology since I was a little kid. But I wanted to understand the people around me, you know, my family members, and why people do the things they do, both positive and negative. And it really helped me understand, empathize, and sometimes sympathize with why people are the way they are. And we don't have to be locked into a certain way. You know, we can evolve from our chart, but it's good to understand, because it just helps me get on with other people in the world, you know, and not to take it personally. So that's really been the main thing for me, is to not take things personally. And what's that saying? Walk in someone else's shoes. That's what it's helped me with. And I know another thing as well. I've been told many times that using astrology can be a great pickup line. Have you ever had any experience of doing that, Sean?
No, I haven't. But,
oh, really?
What's your sign is, you know, kind of an old adage out there. I have used astrology to look at the compatibility of a people in my life, though. That's absolutely for certain. Yes. And to understand, you know, those dynamics. So yes.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And the karma. Actually, that's what we should talk about next time you're on. Let's talk about karma and how we're all connected in some crazy sort of a way.
Absolutely. I would love that, Kelly. I look forward to being invited back. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me, Sean.
My pleasure.
Wishing you a good week.
You too, Kelly.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.